The Joe Rogan Experience.
Music industry stuff, I think I've been working really hard to go against the grain of, like, right now I'm self-released. Like, I don't have a record company and I'm self-funded, and it's really hard. But it's also really gratifying at the same time because, right now since I left Honey Honey, like Honey Honey's kind of on ice for, sort of.
Yeah, you didn't nuke the territory.
No.
You just moved out of the building.
Yeah, well, we're figuring it out, Well said. Well said. Oh my God. But the battle is getting ahead, and being a woman and being in my 30s and not like, no one wants to hop on board until they know it's working. Mm-hmm. Even though I made this incredible record and it's so well received, and then folks are like, yeah, well, call us when it's working, rather than like get in now.
Right.
And I don't feel discouraged by that. I feel informed. But that's also a business move, because we're taking art and turning it into commerce, and no one wants to bet on a horse that's not winning yet,
right. Yeah.
And I feel pretty good about what I'm doing. I don't think I should be doing something else, but it's still a struggle, So when I said I want to change the narrative, it's sort of like I want to kind of prove to myself and others that, like, you can do it, like, you find a way, and it's really hard, but you can do it, and you get help from your friends. Like, this is so cool to be here with you guys. Like, I don't know if I could really convey that enough, that this is a huge help to what I'm trying to do right now. But yeah, also this is the thing that like keeps me up at night, of being like, oh my God, this is hard. But at the same time, the music industry, I'll just speak to that right now. It's tough.
Well, it seems to me, if I, as an outsider who has no business in the music business, when I look at it, I feel like it's a big ship that had to like cut parts of itself off, and now it's a smaller ship.
Yeah.
And now it's like, whoa, it's still a pretty big ship, but it's not what it used to be. The money doesn't come in anymore in the form of record sales. So it's entrenched its tentacles deeper into the industry, into other things like merchandise and live shows and all these different things to stay alive. And maybe it helps, and maybe it doesn't. It depends entirely upon the artist. But what you're doing at your point in your life, where you're like, look, this isn't fucking working. Like, what do I need to do? Like, being attached to this group's not doing it. Being attached to that group's not doing it. What the fuck's doing it? Let me just try to not be attached to someone.
Yeah.
And through the internet, you have the option to put your stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it gets a reaction from people, like stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh shit, this bitch is talented.
Well, and thanks, first of all, that's sweet.
I love you.
I love you too. It's not like I want to like take over the world. I just want to like make a good living doing what I love. That's all I want, and it's fucking hard.
I know it's hard.
But it's also, like I want to capture that thing. I want to tune into the right radio station, and also not have to worry so much about like not having enough to get by, that kind of thing. And it sounds silly, but it's not. Like, that is my reality.
What is the major function of a record label? Not hating, just wondering. What's the major function of a record label when you're not really necessarily selling records?
So
not trying to blow up anybody's business.
Well, you want to weigh in on this?
I can give a little bit.
Yeah.
They're for marketing, promotion.
Marketing.
They're the folks who help you with budgets for tour.
They're a bank.
So when it says like budgets for tour, is that because you have to lay out money in advance to set up a set and to make sure that everybody gets to the place, they have the money to get to the event and set everything up, and then they would reap some of the reward. So it's almost like an initial investment, and then based on return from ticket sales.
Right. So so like, it's expensive to be out on tour.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot to be out on tour. You're paying for anything and everything, right?
Yeah.
You're paying to play, basically.
Right.
And so what they do is they come in and they'll help you with things like that, and but sometimes it doesn't work for people, you know, and that's the thing is like people come into this thing going, oh, I made it, I've got this deal, but if your record doesn't hit or whatever doesn't hit, then they've invested all this money. So it's kind of, it puts this extra pressure on you to figure out what you need to do to make it. And I think some people go down a different route and would switch up their thing, but they can be very helpful. You know? It depends on your attitude too. A lot of it is your attitude and what you think of, like, you know, are you being taken advantage of, or is this an investment, or is this going to pay off? Because it goes so up and down, you know, depending on.
I would imagine it would be hard to be free and creative and having a good time with it if you feel like you're being taken advantage of. It would put a dark cloud over it.
Yeah, well, there's that, and I think there's also the misconception that once you get a big record deal, and I've had a few, where you think all of a sudden, like, you have to stop doing something and they're going to do it for you. That is like the biggest mistake you could ever make. And if anything, you have to work harder and prove to them that, like, you're kind of worthy of their time and money. You know, sometimes it depends. It depends on the company. But
I see what you're saying.
You know, essentially, like, when you sign a deal with these folks, like, they have a lot of your creative integrity in some ways, depending on the deal and how it's shaped. And, you know, they own your copyright if they want to own your record, depending on your deal. Sometimes you have more leverage than others. And, you know, if that's the case, like, fuck yeah, good for you.
But that's so weird that they own the whole thing. That they could ever own the whole thing.
Well, I self-released.
Unless you sell it for an exorbitant amount of money. The idea that you would own the whole song, like they would own the writing, the music. They would
not
own
the writing.
recording.
Well, not that. Copyright and publishing are different things.
Okay, so you could still have someone else do that song?
So I self-released my last record, Ruby Red, and I learned a lot because I hired my own PR and distribution companies, and I really got into the nuts and bolts on how all this shit works. And I'm not sure if this has changed because sometimes this is, you know, going back and forth. But when you own your copyright, the digital return on things like Spotify and iTunes are 10-1. So when the record companies own your copyright and all of your streaming is like kicking, like just fucking taking off, they're making tons of money on your
streaming.
streaming.
They're making 10 times more than you are.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. I know.
Crazy. Demons.
Wow.
Major labels now earning over $1 million per hour from streaming.
That's
Holy
fucking insane.
Holy shit. So they figured it out. They figured out how to get deeper into the arteries, like real close to the heart.
But the hustle is like trying to get.
There, bro.
But they also have the keys to a lot of doors.
But this
you
is
know,
the thing.
it's like a weird trade-off.
They do, but I have a feeling if you just look at the landscape, that is less and less of an issue almost every year.
I don't know.
I don't know if they, as long as you don't create feuds, I don't think they necessarily have the keys to arenas. I think if you go through major agencies, that's solved. And I think distribution over the internet, just through people finding out about it and sharing it, and tossing it around, is probably as useful, if not better than anything.
Right.
Because I'll find out about it. Podcasts find out about it. People on Twitter find out about it. They retweet shit. People Instagram repost stuff. And then it hits millions and millions and millions. And millions of people, 100% organic. And it happens all the time when shit is good. I mean, it's almost like you're bankrolling on it not being a good idea if you do it with somebody else. It's like what you're doing is like bankrolling on yourself.
Yeah.
You're saying, like, I believe in myself. Let's just put this out. Whereas if you do it with a label, you have to, so many people have to be, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure it's worked out great for both of you and on numerous occasions, but someone has to believe in you. You have to work with someone. There's a lot involved.
Well, I'm sure, like, well, first of all, there are some great companies. I don't know what, like, you know, what label you work with, but
yeah, we're good.
Yeah. See, like some of them, and obviously because you're fucking amazing and you're crushing it, and you know, like some companies that's not the case, and you know, people's jobs depend on your success, and if they're scared and they go in this way that it's not like, it doesn't hit,
yes,
or something, like they drop you fast.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll speak. Oh yeah. Maybe not.
Hold it together, Suzanne. That's twice. Hold it together. Well, you remember when Prince had to change his name to a fucking symbol?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly. That is the perfect
That's
example.
the perfect example.
Yes.
Imagine you are trying to keep Prince.
That's just
one of
business.
the GOATs of all time.
Man, come
right?
on. Come on.
I mean, of all time goats. He was androgynous before anybody knew what the fuck it was. He was dancing around with high heels. No one could say shit because it was so good. Think about all the homophobia. We were talking about transphobia, homophobia. Think about all the shit he must have endured in like 1988 or whatever the fuck it is when he put out that first album. And it didn't matter. And everybody, it was so good. Everybody just had to step the fuck back. Like Purple Rain. It was the way he was dressed was ridiculous. Imagine if Ryan Reynolds was in a movie about a singer who dressed like Prince did in Purple Rain. It was he's so good he gave himself a handicap. He said, "I'm gonna dress like a goddamn king, and you ain't gonna say shit because my fucking music is so good." He would drive up on a motorcycle, no helmet. Shut the fuck up, bitch. I'm doing whatever I want. I'm Prince.
Exactly.
He was on another planet. Look, come on.
Oh.